2025 Hungarian Grand Prix. Max finishes 9th, 100 points behind the championship leader. But then, everything changes.
Max Verstappen wins! The Azerbaijan will not be moved! He heads to Abu Dhabi!
He beats his rivals and outplays their strategies. By Abu Dhabi, the gap is only 12 points. How does Max keep doing it? What if, even before Max was born, he was destined to become a champion, and racing was literally in his blood at a genetic level? I think you're thinking of Max Verstappen.
Who are you getting a picture of? Of a nice girl.
However, Max's uniqueness actually comes from karting. His mother, Sophie Kumpin, was one of 3 women to win the World Karting Championship in 1995. Jensen Button said about her,
Max was always going to be good because Jos was a great driver and Sophie, his mum, was a fantastic driver because I used to, when I was racing in karts in 95, she was my teammate. So I saw her, I saw her drive. I knew how good she was.
Combining this talent with his father's madness.
My dad never said I was going to be a champion. He was always the opposite. He would tell me I was going to be a truck driver or like a bus driver.
Really? We didn't just get a driver, we got Mad Max.
Max Verstappen, the French Grand Prix, the Austrian Grand Prix, absolutely crushed the opposition!
But when did we actually see the birth of this monster? And you know what? I once saw a clip.
He's on the outside, he's going to do it this time, and he moves right across on Verstappen, through he goes. But Verstappen fights back, round the outside, he's done it! Brilliant stuff!
It shows 2 kids, Esteban Ocon and Verstappen. Look closely how Max instantly decides to slow down and change his trajectory. This overtake perfectly illustrates how intelligent Verstappen already was at just 16 years old. It was proof that he was already operating at an F1 level. 1 year later, Max became the youngest Formula 1 driver of all time. And that wasn't just a coincidence. He and his father planned everything carefully. Why? Because if Toro Rosso hadn't offered him a place in F1, they were ready to choose Mercedes. And that's not all. The contract was for 2 years. If he wasn't promoted to Red Bull, he was free to change teams. So when Max moved to Red Bull in 2016, it didn't seem risky. It seemed inevitable. And what did Max do in his first race?
Max Verstappen wins a Formula 1 Grand Prix!
Verstappen wasn't just good, he was already a star. However, during this time, Max still had weaknesses, mainly being overly aggressive on track and defending like he was being held at gunpoint.
Comfortable for a while! And this is what happened to Max Verstappen. Totally lost it.
He did crash a bit, but again, that happens with most future world champions.
Into the barrier.
The important thing early on is that they're quick out of the box.
I think he definitely took a step. I think it was the last year I was with him, in 2018. Across the first 5 or 6 races, he was a lot, having incidents or making mistakes, mostly on his behalf.
Now, behind the wheel of one of the most competitive cars on the grid, Verstappen had the tools to match his skill set, and he would do just that. We could already see Max's intelligence here. Then, almost immediately, Verstappen revealed his driving style. People call it aggressive. But what does that actually mean? Let's start with the car. Because Red Bull didn't just build a fast car, they built a car for Max. They understood early on that his biggest strength is how much he could extract from the front end. That's why the setup was so sharp, and no one felt this more than his teammates.
His level of sharp and direct is kind of another, it's a whole different level. It's eye-wateringly sharp. And to give people kind of maybe an explanation of what that might feel like, I don't know if you guys play computer games at all, but if you bump up the sensitivity completely to the max and you move that mouse,
which lets Max make tiny, precise adjustments mid-corner instead of committing early and hoping it sticks. The trade-off is less margin for error. A front end this lively is easier to overload and more likely to lose grip if you're even slightly off. Most drivers can't handle that. Even his father can.
It's also funny that he normally can't really run my setup on the car.
No.
He thinks it's too oversteering.
That responsiveness allows him to stay glued to the ideal racing line, correct micro mistakes with laser precision, and repeat near-perfect laps with extreme consistency. And nowhere is that more obvious than on street circuits, where the walls are so close, one small lockup means you're in someone's house uninvited. Yet, Max threads the needle anyway, delivering laps like Monaco 2023.
To take pole position! Unbelievable!
Or the could-have-been lap in Abu Dhabi 2021. This type of driving style isn't just a preference, it's just faster. Listen to this from Spa 2022 qualifying. Sergio comes back into the pits, looks at the delta, and immediately realizes the gap to Verstappen is massive, so he asks where the time is going. The engineer keeps it simple. Too much understeer, add front wing, more front downforce. The car will rotate faster. And Sergio's response says everything. No, with more front wing, I can't drive. Now compare Checo and Max's telemetry at Suzuka Q3. Perez lifted off the throttle while Verstappen only slightly backed off. And that's where Red Bull becomes a problem for anyone who isn't Max. They're not bad drivers, they just can't handle this high-risk, high-reward style. This kind of driving for most drivers is exhausting, but for him, it's natural. That's why he has consistently outperformed all of his teammates at Red Bull. The second seat has almost become a curse. I really feel sorry for Isaac.
After a heavy crash involving Isaac Hadjar during the afternoon session on day 2.
Okay, let's get back to Verstappen's secrets. The next secret is sim racing. And while you might only know Max from memes,
Wow!
in reality, Verstappen practically grew up on simulators, where precision, muscle memory, and instant correction are everything. I've already mentioned Max's precision on street tracks. Now, watch him in action in a simulator.
On Diego. Pins. Oh dear, he's dead. Oh, he's done. Oh my god, he saved it. Oh my god. That is outrageous.
That translates perfectly to an F1 car with a razor-sharp front end. Also allows him to exercise his demos.
The guy goes left, the guy goes right. He deserves to be put into the fucking barrier.
Thanks to this, Verstappen was able to win the GT3 series on his first try.
In global motorsport, the first time that Max Verstappen attacks an NLS race, a Nürburgring Langstrecken Series race.
He even won in a Ferrari faster than Charles and Lewis. But even with all that aggression, what really makes it sustainable is his tire management. Max is on a different tier when it comes to how hard he can push the Pirellis without graining them into dust. Combine this skill with a deep understanding of cars and you will gain a total advantage. You'll see other drivers bolt on fresh tires, push like maniacs for 2 laps, and suddenly they've killed them. Massive pace drop, grip gone, basically driving on plastic. Sometimes even literally. Meanwhile, Verstappen will just sit there pumping out consistent lap times on 20-lap-old tires, sacrificing almost nothing. And if the pace does drop, it's usually intentional. He's stretching the stint. That's what makes his strategy so violent. But perhaps Max Verstappen's greatest weapon is his hidden talent. 2025 Mexican Grand Prix. At the start of the race, he avoids a penalty, and a few laps later, after battling, Verstappen avoids a penalty again, while Lewis receives a 10-second penalty. How? The key moment came before the start of the race, when Verstappen outsmarted his rivals.
Went to have dinner the night before Mexico, and I came up with the idea in my mind. I wanted to start on the soft, and I was like, I want to start on the soft because, softer compound. I want to make some moves in T1. And then he was like, "Oh, don't fucking do that. You're gonna cook the tires in 5 laps."
Starting on mediums gave him a longer first stint and a later pit stop, allowing him to gain positions through strategy. But let's go back to the start. Verstappen explodes off the line and battles Ferrari. He hits the curb and chooses to leave the track. At that moment, he was technically ahead of Ferrari. Because of this, Max didn't have to give the position back and received no penalty. A few laps later, he attacks Hamilton. Verstappen goes for the move, reaches the apex first, and runs off the track. Once again, he keeps the position and no penalty. Seconds later, Hamilton imposes a fight and cuts the track. This time, he receives a 10-second penalty.
We have 10-second penalty. That's such bad.
That decision secures Max's podium. Cinema. After 2023, a lot of people are tired of Verstappen's dominance. We thought, oh, finally, a penalty. Then, nothing. Max doesn't just race other drivers. He races the rule book. And the scary part is, he usually knows exactly how far he can take it. Max has said it himself. I just drive to the rules. If they allow it, I'll do it. In 2016, Max's defensive driving started pushing into territory that the FIA hadn't properly defined yet. At Suzuka, he moved under braking while defending from Lewis Hamilton. Late, aggressive, and terrifying to watch.
Go late in the braking. He's going to go late. Verstappen moves late now. Hamilton goes around the outside, has to go straight on.
Toto Wolff called it far too dangerous. And soon after, the FIA stepped in. Sudden moves under braking were banned. That was the birth of what everyone quietly started calling the Verstappen rule. By 2021, the chess match had escalated. Brazil, turn 4.
He's trying to take the lead from Verstappen, but he is forced wide by Verstappen, and Verstappen himself has to go off the track.
Max runs both himself and Hamilton completely off the circuit. No clear shove. And because both cars left the track, the stewards had nothing concrete to punish.
Can we get your reaction to the reprimand and the fine that you received from the stewards this morning?
It's quite a big fine, so I hope they have a nice dinner and a lot of wine. I hope good expensive wine, that would be nice. And they can invite me for dinner as well. I'll pay for that dinner too.
And that was the final straw. At first, these moves look reckless, but they aren't. Max isn't thinking about looking fair. He's thinking about controlling the championship. If two cars crash, the point gap stays the same. If they don't crash, that same aggression usually ruins the other guy's race anyway. Either way, Max wins. The 2021 season was built on these small, calculated tracks.
Not shouting, but like forcefully saying something towards me and Max, like, oh, you're gonna get someone killed out there or something like that. And then them two just like went off into a different room, got changed, and we were just kind of left. I can't remember who was P3, but they were just kind of sitting there thinking, what is going on here? I'd have to look back.
Even in the final race, Verstappen found a way to gain the edge. Before the restart, he positioned his car directly in front of the leader. That move didn't last long. The FIA later made it clear such positioning would no longer be tolerated. But it didn't stop there. For 2022, overtaking rules were rewritten. Responsibility was clarified when a car is significantly behind, and the rules on forcing drivers off the track were tightened. And that's not even counting how Max reshaped the rules for F1 rookies. It's batshit insane, and it's genius at the same time. This is what makes Max, Max. He'll do whatever it takes to win, and whether you like it or not, the sport has already been forced to bend around him, because he's not going to stop driving like this. If his driving style and intelligence make Max outstanding, his indifference is what makes him a badass. Best example this year. You've seen Norris fuck up his starts over and over again.
Oh, he's ripped off the front wing! The McLarens collide! Lando Norris into the wall and out of the race!
Same with Leclerc with Ferrari in 2022. He was getting frustrated. He crashed in France. Nothing seemed to work out for him. Whereas Verstappen, he really doesn't give a fuck. Now, think about the 2026 season.
I've seen the data and already on the simulator as well. To me, it looks pretty terrible. I mean, if you go flat out on the straight in Monza and like, I don't know what it is, like 400 or 500s before 400s before the end of the straight, you have to downshift flat out because that's faster. I think that's not the way forward.
Max may be skeptical, but 2026 gives him one of the best opportunities to shine. His indifference, which turns into pure adaptability, combined with everything we've discussed in this video, fits perfectly into a season defined by change. And honestly, this might be his damn advantage. So what do you think? A quick update while I was editing this video. Testing is currently underway in Bahrain, and as I said, it looks like Max has introduced a genius tactic by shifting to a lower gear. The move has already caused tension in the paddock, especially for Toto and several other drivers. However, Verstappen maintains that the new regulations are fundamentally flawed. But you know that, Max.
Trophy looks the same. You know, I have 4 of those at home, so it's nice.
And it's arguably the trauma from his dad that turned Max into an absolute driving menace, because losing was never really an option, and if he kept throwing temper tantrums while fighting the big boys, he'd eventually bottle it, like Leclerc did, like Norris was about to. But he adapted. It's clear he's just older now. The aggression and ruthlessness is still there, but it's sharpened into more precise driving and laser focus.